So it's Drinks Professionals Network, and I'm wearing my Lucky Friday the 13th whiskey shirt. I don't know if it really is lucky because I've never worn it before, but I just thought I would wear it today. Thanks for everybody for joining us on this rescheduled later than usual September. Usually it's first Friday, but we are fresh out of ADI. And while we're waiting for some others to join, I think I might turn it over to Mark just to give us a little headline because as Bump does every year, who Mark works with, he did his kind of state of the industry up to the minute sales and trends. And I think there was a lot of interesting information in it. I don't know, we're not going to go through it all, but I thought maybe Mark, as a way to kick this off while we're waiting for others, just to give us some kind of highlights, headlines to share with the group.
Absolutely. I condensed it down. If you want to go through a few slides, make me share.
Yeah, can you, is he?
Yeah, Mark, you should
Okay.
be able to share. I have it
All right.
set up so you
Great.
can.
Let's see. Share. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yes, it's coming up right now.
Always
Okay.
in the fight.
Always in the fight. So as Michael said, yeah, Bump spoke at the ADI conference and expo, and he loves to come up with great titles. That's one of the things Bump does, and he's got a good one. I think fight is probably a great term. Let me go back here. So this was an update that we saw, about U.S. craft distilleries are in a little bit of a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
At first glance, it looks like everything's good, to consumers, and there's all types of products and all kinds of new to world. That'll be a new term most of you will learn as we move along. But new to world, in other words, they're new. They've never been in existence before. And the true state of the industry is not as rosy as it seems. And this is from Jake Eman. And I think the important thing here is, producers and consumers are on opposite sides of a chasm. So as a producer, we've got to do a better job of understanding that consumer, see where that consumer is moving, see how that consumer's reacting. Are they going to the store as often? Are they going to the liquor store as often? What are they purchasing? And of course, the big word you're going to hear is flavor, flavor, flavor. If I say that 100 times, I'll say it 200 times. Flavor, flavor, flavor. So right now, this is kind of the world we all live in. And this is true not only for liquor space, but for beer, wine, NA. It's just, there are so many things happening in our world. And some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And it's all impacting this consumer in the middle who's trying to make purchase decisions, who's trying to figure out, what is it I want? And I think you all know by now that consumer, the loyalty factor of that consumer is way down. They rarely stick with a brand for a while. Now they'll have their go-to brands, but they want to try everything. They want to try all kinds of different things out there, and that brings us back to the flavor. But there are a lot of things impacting our world as distillers. Here's the challenges: distribution, execution, and focus. I'm not telling you anything new. I've been on these calls with everybody talking about distribution. And we have got to do a better job of number one, finding our distributors. Number two, partnering with our distributors. Number three, figuring out the main goals with those distributors, figuring out what their goals are, what our goals are, having those ABP meetings, and getting a focus. Gen Z consumers, are really down on alcohol right now. The NA wave is hitting, and it's hitting all three categories. It's hitting beer, it's hitting wine, and it's hitting some spirits. There's lots of brands all of a sudden, and now there's poor shelf space management within the stores. Beer's always been a category that was looked after. Wine was always a category that was pretty much looked after. Right now, the spirits category on the shelf is sometimes not as maintained as it should be, and brands sometimes are missing when they should be in the store, or they might be out of stock, or they might be in the back room. So shelf space management is really important for you to have conversations with your distributor partners. Obviously, consolidation puts more power into fewer brands. The big boys, obviously, in the industry, they have a little more firepower. So it's tougher as they consolidate, as brands buy each other. It's tougher for that middle tier or even small startup tier to find space within the category. And of course, one of the challenges we're all facing in every industry, but particularly I think in the spirits industry, is the cannabis Delta 9 and natural organics.
I'm sorry, I don't know what Delta 9 is. I feel like an idiot if I'm supposed to, but I don't know what that means.
Delta 9 is a derivative of marijuana, and it's the higher potency of cannabis. It's the higher potency of a marijuana bud.
Okay.
There's a Delta 8, there's a Delta 9, there's CBD. There are a world
But doesn't the Delta 9 still fall within the CBD rules versus the cannabis rules?
Yes. Yeah. Well, in some states, it depends.
Some states.
Some
So
states.
Carrie, so one of the things about Delta 9 is that it was able to get shelf space in because CBD is available in a lot of states, a lot more than legalized marijuana or cannabis. So that was kind of a way. I know Sherman in the past has talked about a Delta 8 product that he was involved with. I think it was a vermouth or something that they were dealing with. But anyway, that's what that is. It was kind of it gets you the buzz, but it circumvents some of the restrictions.
I remember him talking about that. I just don't remember the word in there. But
Yeah, and it's been a whole educational process for all of us in the beverage industry, whether we're beer, wine, or spirits, to learn about these products: THC, CBD, what levels, is it 0.03? What can we have in our products? And the big fight, and you've probably seen this from Governor Newsom out in California, is for control of this industry, so that standards are set, so that quality remains within the category, so that if young people are buying this, or anybody's buying it for that matter, are they getting exactly what that label says? So it is more of an industry control and an industry requirement to make sure that just like the beverage industry, we have standards that we have to meet. We're controlled, and we have to make sure that if we say it's 45 proof, it's 45 proof. It's not 65 proof or whatever. So that's a huge category, and I would invite everybody to make sure you're getting yourself educated within that category, because there may be an opportunity for you to have these products into what you do, into what you make. Okay, so how do you start a business? So I'm going to bring this in here real quick. It's red light, green light, red light, yellow light, green light. And right now, to increase a consumer shopper base, it's really tough for the beer business. The beer people have pretty much got their consumer base. They're not adding too many to the category. Are they increasing their purchase frequency? Not so much. That's kind of a yellow light. They're not going out and purchasing as much. COVID did a lot to impact this slide. And then, of course, increased volume shopping occasions. Those are down for beer. People are not going in and shopping the way they used to for beer. They're picking it up almost as a secondary purchase when they go to the grocery store, or even in convenience.
Well, they're doing
Wine,
more seltzers or RTDs, more seltzers, more RTDs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where spirits has got all the green lights. But yellow lights for wine, increased shopper base a little bit. There's we see a little bit of scale there. Increased frequency, of course. People are starting to come back out to dining a little bit. We're seeing, since COVID, there's a little more of that. So that's a yellow light for them. And of course, increased shopping occasion for them. They actually are shopping a little more. And a lot of that has to do with the online shopping, ordering online. And then, of course, for spirits, it's pretty much green lights. That's the good news. There's an opportunity to increase that consumer shopper base. There's an increased purchase opportunity to get them trying spirits more, and not just, having shots at a party or, you know, things like that. So there's an opportunity with cocktails and again, with the RTDs that you just mentioned, and then the increased shopping occasion. We're finding that these people tend to shop a little more than the people in these categories. And that leads us to this, which is a 7,500, excuse me, person survey that we did. And you know, the questions were, do you drink more beer? You know, well, 34% said yes. Do you drink more wine? 23 said no. Asked about spirits, more 56%, half of the people we polled are drinking more spirits.
That
Um,
but I don't, everyone I know that work for major suppliers, the spirits business is significantly down.
Well, and that's where this RTD comes in. And maybe, I don't know, this is a survey that we did with 7,500 people. Which spirits people are you speaking with? Big people?
Oh, I mean, but yeah, Bacardi, Beam, yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, that all those companies both factually are like really down.
Well,
And you know the brands that they all entail. I mean, it's not just Bacardi rum and Jim Beam. I mean,
But Carrie, when you look at that, and that is true, but when you look at that, like for example, Pernod, you know, Jameson is still up, is
Well-
growing, and then you got certain brands like Jefferson's and some of the domestic bourbon brands which are down a little bit for them. So it's kind of, you know, I think it's not across the board, especially for the big guys, but I do think the issue that was hit upon in the beginning of craft distillers being in trouble is a big factor, because it's a lot of what people are doing have been, and I don't mean to be taking Mark's thunder, but just from, we talked about this, people have been trading down. So they've been buying more mainstream brands than they are, you know, higher priced unique brands or craft brands, especially when there's so many choices.
And I'll get to
Can I ask an ignorant question as a Canadian here? Is there a difference in the entry level for age for the CBD products versus the alcohol throughout the US?
21.
It varies from state to state again.
Okay, but
21
it's they're both treated the same?
in most states.
Okay.
And you're talking legal versus, you know, what the consumer does, I suppose.
If you're 21 and you can get both, great. If you're 18 and you can get one, but you can't be 21 till you get another, it causes issues.
Yes, exactly. And Carrie, I'll get to a slide here in a little bit that shows kind of who's up and who's down. And you're right, there are some that are down, make no mistake. But I think this speaks to the opportunity. This is from the consumer. And I think this speaks to the opportunity that's
Okay,
perceived.
I didn't mean to jump in before you finished.
No. Hey, this is what these meetings are for. Absolutely. And I'll get to a slide that shows where some of these RTDs are really stealing, you know, some of that thunder, and stealing some of that volume. But I think the good news here is, you know, these two categories are up. You'll also see, you know, drink more non-alcohol stuff is up considerably, and it's up more than, you know, even those that drink wine. And drinking less alcohol is very popular amongst LDA drinkers right now. So I think this is definitely an opportunity for our spirits industry. So here shows a little bit of the ups and downs. And this is where I referenced the RTD and prepared cocktails. You know, if you look, there are some soft spots, you know, vodka off a little bit, rum off a little bit, cognac, you know, off a little bit. Non-alcohol spirits up considerably, smaller base, but up considerably. You know, whiskey is still up a little bit, but this RTD category is just really growing, you know, and that's where that consumer is landing on those types of products, and spirit based as well. And then, you know, here's these new world families that we talked about, you know, families that dominate, you know, the landscape. And, you know, we've been saying for, geez, Michael, what, over a year or two now on these meetings that High Noon was like leading the category and really one of the few in the category. I think a year ago, this list would not have included, you know, probably from 11 and down, you know, maybe you know, I mean, it's just all these new entries and all these new brands, you know, and of the top 9 families, 9 are new to the world. So there's a lot of activity going on within these categories, and you're starting to see they're eroding, you know, some of the big players that we've had over the last couple of years. Excuse me. High Noon,
Well,
Buzzball.
Buzzballs, Cutwater used to be number 2, wasn't it?
Didn't
Um,
Buzz
Yes.
get sold,
Buzzballs
or
is lower.
isn't Buzzball a new supplier?
Yeah, they just bought, well, they got bought by.
They got bought by
Yeah.
Sazerac.
Sazerac.
Right.
Sazerac
And-
bought Buzzball.
And
Yeah.
I noticed what they're doing is that, you know, Buzzballs was always the individual drink, but now they look like
Large
bowling
size.
balls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Although I've
So
noticed that Licks doesn't show up here, and Gallo bought Licks and attempted to do the same thing where they moved beyond the little shot glasses to 750s. But I don't see that they've shown up on your list here.
yeah. So I mean, you know, High Noon's the clear leader, but I think the
Mhm.
realization is there's a lot of other players in here. You know, 16 of them new to the world, you know, are all showing increases as well.
Mhm.
What is Beatbox some kind of high alcohol wine thing or something?
Beatbox is a wine based, but
Yeah.
it's flavored RTDs.
Isn't it like crazy high proof though?
Some are. I believe they've got a range. I think 10 is like their average. You know, 10.8 or 11, something like that. I don't know how high they go, and I apologize. I don't know how low they go. But I know there's a span there. And one of the things that they're trying to do is they're trying to stay in that higher premium category. Therefore, you know, a little more proof.
What is Big Sips doing? Look at their year to year. 792%.
Because they must have come from 0.
Yeah. Yeah. Big Sips was like a player that just exploded onto the scene. I'm trying to think, VMC, I have 2 chicks. I'm trying to think how many of these wouldn't even have been on a list 2 years ago.
Yeah, Mom Water is like 2 years.
I
Yeah.
don't even
Mudwater-
know. What's VMC?
That is a spirit-based cocktail. I believe they're out of Texas. I'm not sure. I will have
I'm definitely seeing
check.
Surfside pop up a lot more.
Yeah,
At the
I-
off-prems.
Surfside's on fire. I've got a distributor here in
Actually,
Columbus.
somebody just called me from New York last week and said, have you heard of this Surfside? Is it all over where you are? But they're really apparently killing High Noon.
And they're
Yeah,
all over New York. Every place I go,
That's
I
what I'm
see
saying.
them.
That's who called me,
Mhm.
somebody in New York, another supplier, and said,
Yeah,
is
but-
Surfside really big down in the South? I said, not. I mean, he said it's killing it in New York and it's killing High Noon.
They are in Florida.
they had great chain distribution, excuse me. They had great chain distribution, and they're going to the distributors already saying, we've got this, and this. All you have to do is, you know, take it and deliver it. And they're also putting people in place. They're also putting people in the market to work with the distributors. Again, back to that, working with your distributor and connecting and making sure you get the same.
How much of the growth in this business is cannibalizing each other versus cannibalizing other markets?
Ooh,
Yeah,
That's
good
it.
question.
Yeah.
that's a chart I'm gonna have to run over the weekend.
There's no
But that-
loyalty.
That you know what? That's a great point. And I think I guess from where I sit, I see beer taking probably the biggest hit.
Yeah.
You know, any of the beer category. And I see wine, you know, it's kind of back to that red, yellow, green chart that I showed. You know, wine is getting hit a little bit. But yeah, we're definitely pulling. And make no mistake, you know, non-alcohol brands, health conscious, energy drinks, non-alcohol, things like that are really finding favor with our LDA drinkers, the people just coming into the drinking world. So we're giving
Yeah,
up.
I mean,
we're giving up some
I've
volume.
noticed a lot of that. I've been watching, companies like Athletic Brands and Celsius Brands, and all these guys are going after the more health conscious individuals and trying to dissuade them from drinking. And we kind of get our buzz from the energy zip that's in it. But I'm seeing a lot more, I would say, out of the developments that we're doing here at our company other for alcoholic brands, I would say 25% of them are people coming to me saying, hey, I want to now explore the non-alc space so that people view my company as being both on both sides of the coin because of some of the negative publicity that's been floating around for the past, call it 8 months, 9 months in the alcohol business.
Yeah, well said. You'll
Mhm.
see, Athletic, Go Brewing. Go Brewing is a big non-alc brewer that's working on a health side of things as well. So yeah, you're going to see more and more. And this speaks to I think the chasm that, we reference on like slide 2 is we've got to make sure we understand that new drinker and make products and develop products and do marketing and do social media things that attract that new drinker, they're fitting into their everyday world, which is a lot of social media, which is a lot of, music venues, which is a lot of culture, a lot of art, a lot of things like that, which is driving, that new consumer. And then real quick, this is a slide we do every year, kind of talks about where the manufacturer falls, where the distributor falls, and where the retailer falls on what's important to them. And what are they, what are the top 10 things, that a manufacturer is thinking about. And if you look, for manufacturers, we want to drive high-end brands. It's high margins, it's high growth dollars, it's a tremendous opportunity. We want to talk about revenue growth management, flavors, high ABV offerings, as I mentioned just previously about Beatbox, high ABV offerings, innovation, all down the line. I won't take time to read them all. But if you look at the distributor, I mean, here's the distributor's focus, expand their bev alcohol portfolio. They can't just be beer guys. They can't just be wine guys. They can't just be spirit guys. They got to be all things today. They're looking at NA beverages. They want to reduce beer brand SKUs within their warehouses. They don't want to be sitting on a lot of inventory as a new brand is coming in, or if the new, if Cutwater, starts to slow, they want to make sure they're replacing those brands with other flavors of other brands. That's money sitting on their floor. Inventory is money. And then you look over at the retailer side.
So I'm sorry, can I pause 1 second? Question.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that beyond destocking? So you're saying this is a whole strategic shift to not carry inventories of smaller brands?
I think they want to, they're trying to carry the right inventory. They want to make sure that they've got enough, to keep the shelf stock and keep the product on the shelf. But what they don't want is they don't want to go 2 and 3 and 4 months with the same inventory sitting on their floor, waiting, for a brand to catch fire. Because what? They've got 5 that came in the door this morning, that are new, hot, and on fire. So they've got to really look at their dollars and cents in their inventory and really try to skinny it down as best they can. It's a crystal ball.
They're going to start pulling consignment ideas like up here in Quebec, and with our controlled provinces, they'll actually say, bring it in on consignment. As it sells, we'll pay you.
That's liquor laws across the United States, and that's going to vary from state to state. I don't think you'll see that. I think you'll see maybe an extension of time. There may be, they may give 30 days, to pay for something, and then they could return it. I don't know. I can't speak to the legal side of that, but I do know in the States, it's got to be paid for upon really as soon as the door closes on the truck at the manufacturer. You've bought it. That distributor owns it. So I don't know. That's a great. You know what? I'm going to make a note here, and we'll check on that. That's something we can look into. And then over to anything else on that?
No, I mean, the only reason I'm asking it partially is being a supplier at the first level. If monies get stretched out to the manufacturers, then it's going to trickle down to us. And the last thing that any distributor or glass manufacturer or any supplier wants to be is someone else's bank.
Mhm.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. So I don't know. I don't know about that, but you know what? I'm going to ask the team and we'll see what we're hearing out there. That's a great comment. Thank you. And then the retailer, they want high-end beverages. They want flavors. How many times did I say we'd say flavors? Flavor, flavor, flavor. They want to drive foot traffic to the store. They want consumer loyalty. They want to try to put brands out there that the consumer's going to come back for, because they're in the same boat. They've got smaller back rooms. They've got less space to put products. So they want to make sure they've got the right products for the right consumers. And of course, spirits and RTD cocktails. The retailer very much understands that is a product that the new consumer is looking for, as well as consumers, that are demographically older in the older demographic. So they want to make sure they've got the right spirits and cocktails. So what's the expectation from that consumer? And I'm almost done, I promise. More high quality flavors. Again, flavor, flavor, flavor. Variety packs. Increased availability, increased distribution. This is a tricky one for manufacturers, because how do I get my product out to more and more places when my distributor, is maybe being stretched, or I'm working through my distributor that only goes to a certain area. So that's a tough one. Expanded presence of the RTD single serves. They want to be able to buy one. They don't want to buy a full 6-pack and find out they don't like it. They want a single serve to understand this is what I like, and I'm going to go back and then I'm going to maybe buy the variety pack. Here's our THC infused beverages making its way into this slide as well, Carrie. So, they're looking for those kind of products. Gluten-free, better for you. We talked about health, non-alcohol. On the slide, it kind of showed tequila, and he's got vodka in here. I'd kind of disagree. I think bourbon and RTD flavor expansions, I think those are going to continue to grow. We've already got some vodka ones in there. So I don't know how much growth there'll be in the vodka category, but obviously those categories have an opportunity to grow. And then expanded distribution of spirits into stores that would maybe only normally carry beer, or would maybe only be a wine store. We've got to make sure that we're trying to get into those. Where else can I sell my products in the stores? Favorite brands have always got to be in stock. And this goes back to my point we said earlier about making sure shelves are full, making sure distributors understand, the importance of keeping your product on the shelf. And then, obviously if there's a cold vault, or, in convenience stores, if there's an opportunity for a beer cave, trying to make sure we've got some placement in there as well. And then what do we do? So you got to understand, you got to have a real finger on the pulse of that retailer. What is driving those retail decisions? So if you go back to the slide a couple slides ago, what's important to that retailer? What are the 10 top things that retailer is thinking about? And you're only going to get that if you're talking to the retailer, if you're talking with the distributor to talk to the retailer, and obviously doing, surveys and market studies to see what does that retailer really need. Who your customer is, who's buying my product, is it the same people that have bought my product for the last 10 years, or is there a new market evolving? Win your own backyard. You've got to win in your own territory, in your own surrounding area. Quality, there's no substitution for quality. So we want to make sure that you understand you're putting quality product out, time in, time out, that it's the same product that the consumer is looking for again and again and again. Great distributor partners that are winning. You want to find yourself with partners that care about your goals, want to know about your goals, want to understand your goals, and share those goals. Focus on the details. Price, innovation, P&L, marketing, sales. Those things are all things that you have to consider when you're developing new products, when you're putting new products out to the consumer, when you're doing your marketing. Focus on all the details that go into your total strategic plan. Make sure your growth plans align. I kind of already talked about that with distributors and retailers. Get out there and work with them. Build the brands that are winning. Focus on your core brands. If you've got core brands that are winning, get out there and work those in the market. And then distribution in the right stores. Again, making sure, do I have the right product at the right place at the right time? And, it's not easy, but I think this slide just shows, anything can be done. Nobody said this was going to be easy. If it was easy, anybody could do it. So we're a great group of individuals in this industry. We love challenges, and we got to find ways to do these things. So that's my story. Questions?
A lot.
Yeah.
No, I think it's
So
it's great.
actually, let me ask the first
Mhm.
question, Mark, which is, I know we've been recording this, but will we be able to distribute your slides to the people that are on this call today?
Yeah. What
Okay.
I'll do is I'll send it to you and Michael. And then
Okay.
you can send it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, we'll
I'll just
also
send it
have
to
the-
this group.
It'll also be in the recording.
Right, but
Yeah.
some people like to see the slide
Oh,
business,
sure.
so
Absolutely.
yeah, that'd be great. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Mark.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That was
And,
gonna be my question.
we're happy to
Um,
help. And, obviously, if you need a deeper dive, if you've got a product or a brand or something that you need, some deeper information on, whether it be regional numbers or state numbers or anything like that, that's a big piece of what we do. But we're also working on those distributor relationships, helping you if you're fairly new to the business or want to understand better how to make those relationships work. We do a lot of work on that. And I'm currently training a lot of sales teams across the country on selling these types of products and selling, things besides just craft beer and beer. And they've got to know. They can't just run in and go, here's a sample, give it a try, tell me what you think. That sales pitch just does not work. We've got to be highly educated, professional salespeople going in representing these brands. So we're doing a lot of work with the distributors and suppliers, making sure everyone's people are up to speed with good sales techniques and good sales technology.
I do have one curious question. I know that RTDs sell at a discount compared to, like the RTDs we're talking about in the vodka space and all that. They sell at a relative discount to some of the premium RTDs that are selling for anywhere from $18 to $20 for a 375. How much do you think a product differentiation on the shelf and cost erosion would need to be in order to balance out and start sort of having their own category? Because when I go into a liquor store, I see a wall of RTDs, I just walk away from it. I just have no interest in it, because for me it's and excuse me, this is me, it's just a bunch of people who want to shove shit in a can and drink it. I don't think there's any kind of finesse or thought process beside just the decoration on a can that's gone into that. Whereas anybody who ages stuff, who's a distiller who does stuff like that, it's more of a passion rather than a business. And that's kind of where I'm curious is do prices need to kind of fall back in line because they've been sitting fat and happy for too long?
Wow. I think I understand your question. And I think you're asking me if I think there'll be a high end, sort of like in the beer business. Will there be a high end, super premium import category, a premium category, and then a sub premium category? Is that sort of maybe what you're asking?
Kind of, but at the same time, I know that people have struggled with creating RTDs using aged product, and the pricing on something like that is considerably more than the average RTD. And even if you take it out of a glass bottle and put it into a can, the pricing is still higher. And vodka is still cheaper to get than 3 or 4 year old bourbon or rye. And kind of my curiosity is, at what point in time do you think that if there's price erosion on one side, there's going to start being market erosion on the other?
But do you think people that are shopping those cans are looking for spirits that are aged in barrels? I mean,
No, but but again, it's digging into, and I see this more and more, and it's driving me nuts because everybody's like, oh yeah, I've gone to a can. Well, okay, fine, bye. The problem with putting things into a can, everything becomes less expensive, less thoughtful, and it's just curious. It's cheap. The velocity of stuff going into the marketplace is unbelievable. It's the amount of alcohol and stuff that's coming into the marketplace all across. I equate it with what social media is. You're hit with it every day. You don't have time to process anymore. That's
But I
why I
think,
walk away from that whole
are you also
category.
talking about, you mentioned like 375s. So I mean, I think there's a separate category of what I would call the Manhattans in a bottle, you know, that
Right.
are made with very specific brands. And I think that's a different,
Like
to me,
Beam has
that's a
those, they're
different,
called OTR on the
Yeah.
rocks drinks. You just open it
Right,
up and pour
right.
it. And
I
those
think
are,
that's
those
different
are,
than
those are premium.
RTD, which is like a grab and go.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
the
what I
cans,
mean.
the individual servings. And I think for those, most of those that I know of, and some of them are very good, but they're not going with aged product because of the cost, the price point, or they're going lightly aged. You know, they can get away with even adding color, in some of those, many of those, but
And I think that maybe refers back to just my comment about flavor. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it may not really matter whether it's a well drink or a top shelf spirit being added. It might just be, I'm looking for that flavor. So that's a great question. And I wrote
Vanessa's
that
like,
down.
Vanessa, you're the queen. Why don't you chime in? She tries to make a flavor out of everything.
Mhm.
I do. I think, did you have my rhubarb gin, Mike? Hi, Mike. What did I give you?
I didn't know, not the rhubarb.
Gave you the espresso martini?
I was
Oh,
gonna
I've had-
say, was that because you went to England and everybody said rhubarb, rhubarb? I mean, come on. Wow.
No, no.
I have to
By the
try it
way-
now.
Right? But I do make a lot of flavors. By the way, this is very interesting because, I'm not saying that I pivot, but I am in the RTD space right now. I don't want to do cans. I'm not doing cans. I made a 175 RTD. I've been testing it in the New York market. It's in a PET bottle. It's called more party in a bottle. That's what I call it. Big Mama cocktails. Started out with the salted caramel martini and the espresso martini, and lo and behold, the retailers on premise and even off premise has been picking it up, and now I got bars calling me, for it because it's a easy, it's easy. Some girl did a social media thing online, and for my salted caramel, and then they added Cardi B's caramel whip to it, and now, yeah, and now everybody's like ordering. So
That's a
I
good
have
thing.
online sales. Yeah, I don't have enough cases, but now I'm putting into production because I want to be in the space. Yeah, people are going to have Surfside. I'm speaking to retailers. My retailers like the Surfside. He's making only $4 a can. He's upset about that. The retailers are hurting right now because they want more profit margin. They're not making money on Tito's. They're not making money even, they're making a little bit on the allocations and these new brands that they're taking on so they can just, because they're trendy, like the XXL, wine and the Surfside, they're making small margins.
Maybe the XL wine is what I'm thinking of. Is that like really, really high proof or something crazy?
That's a 16%.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a 16%. But that market is being saturated because of the TikTok. From my understanding, the TikTok and the social media, I'm gonna be honest, it really tastes bad. I tried it. I was like, oh, I'm not a wine drinker. I'm all spirits. But if I'm gonna venture into something, it has to taste good. Like he said, people are just buying stuff that's is really cheap You know what I mean? So I'd rather have like Mad Dog or something like that. It's really, I'm just
I
saying
work
it's,
for them. No, you don't. Have you been to the
it's
facility in Westfield, New York? No, you don't want
No,
to
you
do
don't want
that.
to do that.
right.
No.
But it's really, really inexpensive to make, and it's really cheap. And all it really is, grape juice, wine, added spirits, and some
Yeah.
flavoring
It's a flavor
from,
lab. It's a laboratory.
right, flavoring from the lab, and which
Yeah.
is really, and then preservatives, and that's not really something I would
Belly
want.
wash with a punch.
Yeah, I can make Kool-Aid if that's the case. Add some, Coke 45 to it, and then voila, it's the same. And they're paying $8.99, $8.99 a bottle, and it's like this craze. So I think people are just watching their pockets, because that's what I'm hearing. Because that's why I said, let me do the 175s. I'm doing the 175s to compete with Tito's, of course, in my market, and it's doing well because I can sell direct. I have a program, I don't want is this going to be recorded? I have a program
Yes.
on my 175s locally in New York where they're able to make 90 to 100% profit as long as they have a year contract with me, because they're buying direct.
Mm.
These retailers are hurting. They're hurting right now. You're talking about crafts distilleries closing down. Thank goodness New York has progressive laws, but if we didn't have, like, not just we don't have we have direct to consumer coming November 16th, we'll be able to do that, but we can still work through the retailers. But the independents are hurting because of the simple fact that they're not getting good margins, and so as a craft distillery, we're able to offer that. We're also able to offer, if you're buying New York brands, people don't realize that we have a beverage fund. So money from a New York brand goes back to our beverage fund. So we can get $50,000 in grants, or we can get up to $100,000 if you, as a match, you put in 50, the state put in 50. I realized at the ADI meeting that other states, they don't have that. Like Colorado, they don't have that. I'm so pissed that, Steve's closing his business,
Mhm.
but the states really need to, or the guilds really need to implement to buy local as well as buying the big guys, and also too, Southern Wines and the distributors, I found out, they also put money into our New York State Beverage Fund as well.
They do.
So
Okay.
yeah, I found that out at the last meeting. So this is a hard industry, and when you're a craft brand, you have to be fluid and be able to move liquidly within this within this region. And if you don't, you'll be out of business.
Well, if you go back to Mark's what do we do slide, there probably were 6 things that were what you need to do. They all require money. They all
Yeah,
require investment. And that's, I think, been the biggest challenge for most craft distillers since the beginning of the craft movement, is that
yeah.
so much of their investment was in operations. And they thought, well, if I could just get the distributor, and then they realized that the distributor's not doing anything because they're not building, supporting it and building the awareness and marketing and having presence and liquid to lips and, all those things that we know about, but those are the brands that can't afford to do it.
But also too, the distributors, I remember back in the day when I started, and we're talking about when I launched Black Mama Vodka in 2013. Yeah, I got with Southern like the following year, but who has 25,000, 45,000 to put in as an incentive? You used to have to
right,
put in incentives,
right.
you know, for them to even just sell your brand and still do a drive-by with them and have a salesperson. You know what I mean? So I can't say gone are the days where you would buy a, you know, big screen TV, but you still got to put the incentives in the marketing, just like you said. But now we have another caveat. We have CBD, you know, and then we have non-alc. Those, you know, this is the next generation. How do we as craft beverage companies or craft manufacturers cater to that? If the older generation is dying off and they can't drink anymore, this next generation is not into craft spirits or any spirits at all, where do we go? We have to be innovative.
It's funny you say that, and sorry for interrupting you.
No,
We
no problem.
That's a massive problem, and I say it, and north of the border in Quebec and Ontario, we're controlled provinces, and the only way that we can that our company, our distillers can distribute it is through them, and all the prices are basically controlled.
Yeah.
There are many other people who are turning around and trying to find international agreements where they're not reliant on local distributors or local or distribution, because as what's happening and with some of the distributors in your neck of the woods, they're choking off products because they don't know what to do anymore, because there's a lot of similarities, and then everybody's going with whatever moves I run with, whatever doesn't move dies.
Yeah. And the distributors are laying off people right now.
Mhm.
Winebow laid off several people. They lost several accounts. Empire, I don't even know what's going on with Empire. They don't want to pay. They don't want to pay their, you know, I'm hearing from the salesperson, well, people are miserable. I'm like, what is going on? You know, so I do agree with Michael's chart that I do see the trend of this next generation of the non-alc, and I'm not into Delta. I'm not into smoking and stuff like that, but it seems like you have people who are into marijuana, but they don't drink. You know, so it seems like there's a lot of people that's into cannabis. I didn't even realize that. So that's
You know,
not a
but
space that I would play in,
I
you know,
think,
until I understand it.
but I think
Mhm.
what's important to this kind of goes back to it's the power of the brand. So like the playbook has already been set by the beer brands, who now pretty much all seem to have a zero alc or a low alc option. In my refrigerator, my wife just picked up the Corona Zero, uh, the most popular Heineken Zero. It's not that somebody created a new brand for Zero. Those are the ones, those are the ones that have a much harder road to get the shelf space, I would assume. But so for you, why wouldn't Black Mama Vodka be doing no alc spirits
I
under
am.
that
Oh no,
brand?
no,
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not gonna do no alc spirits. I have my sports teas. And remember, you know,
right, your
we
teas.
have teas and coffees.
Yeah.
So yeah, people buy that all day long. And then I have I do make a CBD tea, tea bag, which I have the patent on, you know. So that I see myself, you know, playing at some, you know, we actually sell CBD tea bags that we
Mhm.
manufacture. So I got the patent on that in February. So it was just making sure all the cease and desisters out there for those who are who claim, and then now, you know, rolling out these packages to
Mhm.
now distributors, instead of, you know, people buying it direct and, you know, and
Right.
packaging. So that's going to be a staple no matter what. But, you know, and with even at my tasting room, when that's built, I'm going to have, you know, I'm going to have like a gentleman, I have him making a peach tea beer for me. We're testing it out, like one of the breweries. We want to have something that's different, but we're definitely going to have, you know, non-alc, you know, and make, you know, spritzers, tea spritzers. We make what is the other tea? what's that, the popular tea that all these kids like, the boba tea, you know? When I had the cafe, it was boba, you know, we'll make adult boba teas because that's something that we're already in that space. And people are always going to go into tea. So I have
Mhm.
to spin that into, you know, with the alcohol or non-alcohol and make it available for the next generation. And then that's the life cycle too. You know, you get the kids drinking tea because they can't drink liquor. So they know your flavor profile. And then when they actually become adults, either they're drinking your alcohol or they're drinking your CBD. And then
You're
as they
talking
get
about almost
older, they can't, right, as they get
multi-generational
older, they can't,
companies.
right, as they get older, they can't drink alcohol anymore. So now you get to my hydrating sports tea. You know, I'm trying to keep them from the time they, you know, in elementary all the way to, you know, to my age and beyond.
Cradle,
So
cradle to grave, cradle to
that's
grave.
it. That's it.
Yeah,
The
Nice.
life cycle.
yeah. Hey, Carrie, I quickly looked up and I hate when I don't put my own decks together. You threw me with what that one product was.
Sorry.
That's, and I apologize. I should have looked that up because
No, I mean,
I borrowed bump slides. That's the one that's coming out of Mexico. It's a Mexican boxer. I think it's named Saul Alvarez or something like that. He
Oh.
invented it, and it's made with blue agave and honors a lot of Mexican heritage. And there's a couple different flavors. I think like margarita and Paloma maybe, and a couple other different ones. So that's what that beverage was. And I still think it comes out of Texas, but I'll have to do a little more digging, but I apologize.
It's okay. No, please don't.
When I don't make my own
Yeah,
decks,
what's
that
it
happens.
called?
So
Was
what's
that
that?
beatbox?
So
Was that-
VMC.
I
What was
think
it?
it was a tequila, right?
What was the product? Was it beatbox or
No, it was
VMC.
VMC?
VHC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you. Good question.
So I had
I'm
a
glad you
question
brought
on
that up.
flavor.
Thank you.
I had a flavor question. Do you
Mhm.
do any, Mark, do you guys do any tracking of which flavors are actually getting wide acceptance versus which flavors are falling flat? You know, it used to be flavored for whiskey just meant honey, you know, or peanut butter, you know, screwball or whatever, or cinnamon. But now the flavors are all over the place.
Yeah,
Um,
whether it's
Don't forget
watermelon or
banana.
strawberry or banana or yeah.
Right.
I think, and I'll have to check with Dave. I think we've started digging into that, and I think we're digging that out of some of the market basket information that we're pulling from consumers, and I think that's where we're getting some of that flavor information. But I'll check that. I'll have that ready for the next
I just
call.
think that would be a good insight. You know,
Yeah.
what's the highest appeal, you know, which flavor, you know, represents X% of, you know, the flavored category.
I have a customer who's making a jalapeno peanut butter. I don't even ask questions.
What
Who
is
knew?
it? What is the liquid? Jalapeno peanut butter. What?
It's a bourbon and it's actually shaped
bourbon.
like a bullet.
Jalapeno peanut
I'll
butter
definitely look
shaped like
into
that.
that.
Well, at
One
least
of
you
the
get a
good
nice
places
custom
for-
glass.
Yeah, one of the good places to look for the flavors is the Nielsen. That's how I end up getting it. And I end up getting it for the flavors that's sold in the supermarkets. And that's how I was able to see the top. Peach sells no matter what. Peach is like number one. Peach, strawberry. That's why you see those flavors in the supermarkets because they request that. You see it with the yogurt. You see it with, you see it with the yogurt and with the, with the what else? With something else.
So raspberry, peach, blueberry, those kind of.
The strawberry, like strawberry, banana.
Yeah.
The peach. Peach was number one. Grape. That was on the list. Apple. That was, so those, no matter what, sell all year long. So when you want to go into a supermarket, they ask you, what are the flavors? And these are our top selling flavors. And those are the flavors that's always at the top, and that was just, seemed like forever. But now that's why I implemented that with my peach tea vodka. Because when I had did the study, I said, everybody likes peach. So I utilize that, you know, and
Mhm.
green tea. Green tea is anything, if you can do something with a green tea,
So
it's
I'm just looking at
always
the
across the
list.
board.
It sounds like the beverage industry is just being reinvented within the alcohol space, because this is all going back 15, 20 years when Snapple came around.
Yeah.
But I did have one question that kind of maybe is alluding or being diluted in all of these numbers. There's more and more dairy-based products coming out there. And I'm curious to see how that's doing in the market itself.
Are you saying dairy-based like the yogurts and the,
No, more
Like the bourbon
cream
cream?
liqueurs and yeah,
Oh.
the stuff like that. It always seems to disappear into a category, and I think that more and more, especially with the food business going, oh, we have to be vegan dairy, this and oat milk dairy and soya dairy. I don't know if any of this is incorporated in your numbers, or if it's a category that someone may have some legs with. I'm just curious.
Right.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Ever since rum chata, I think everybody started coming out with some sort of cream base. But you
but I
have
think
more.
it's mostly, no one's, I don't recall anyone coming out with a
I
milk
know that
alternative base.
Creamy Creations has worked on an oat milk
Ugh.
that the Creamy Creations. So there's Galloway, that's a big cream producer, and then there's Creamy Creations, that's a dairy-based producer. And these guys are Creamy Creations is a huge multinational company,
Mhm.
and they're trying to bring out new categories to try to attract more and more people, considering there's allergies, this,
Allergies.
that, so on and so
Mhm.
forth. But I don't know. It's every time we talk about products, whether it's RTD or it's a, I'll call it a hard alcohol or a base alcohol. I never hear anybody talking about the cream category and what's been done.
That's
The
because it
innovation.
actually sounds disgusting.
What?
Say
I
what?
mean,
Well, bourbon cream is pretty good.
out of a can?
Oh, well,
I have mine out
Listen,
of the
there
bottle.
are you'd be
Yeah.
surprised. You go down to Temperance in Michigan. They're running these ad nauseum. And I'm just curious to see, as we never seem to talk about that category, and I don't know if it gets encrusted into one particular category, or if it's become one on its own.
Yeah. I
I don't
remember
You
a
know what I'm
company
saying?
called,
It's just more curiosity than anything.
Carrie,
There was
put it on some ice cream and give that a shot. Because I just did mine in my creamy for my dad, and he's addicted to it. So there you go.
I mean,
Anyway,
I've had
What?
vegan drinks, don't get me wrong. I just don't know that RTDs in a can or I don't know. Those are supposed to be kind of like light and refreshing and easy to drink. I just
yeah,
don't.
but you got espresso martinis are pretty popular in cans.
Yeah, they're not so creamy though.
No.
do you remember Bon Bon? Remember the husband and wife, they had something called Bon Bon? I mean, I have a case of it still today. That was made with almond milk.
Bon
You
Bon?
remember that? Was
I
it
don't
Bon
remember what
Bon
it was.
or
I
Boom
don't know.
Boom? It was
I remember a can called Boom Boom. I thought it was wine. I don't know.
yeah, it was I don't know whatever happened to them, but it was what do you call it? I guess it was a spin on rum chata,
Oh,
but it was made with almond milk, from my understanding.
huh.
Oh, I have it. I still have it.
Oh, we're gonna have a show and tell.
Yeah.
Don't look at my table, you guys. This is my dining room table. Here
Is it your
is.
lab? This is where your flavor.
Yeah. Let me turn this thing
That's where all
around.
the
Oh, here
magic
it is.
happens.
Flavor lab.
You see it?
Not, it's
Yeah,
really
but not in
blurry.
focus, though.
I gotta take the blurry out. How do
Yeah.
you do that? Then I gotta take the blur out.
Yeah.
How do you take the blur out?
Just put it by your
Okay.
face and we'll see it.
Yeah, I was gonna say do
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
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 Bon
yeah.
Bon.
This was Milli Vanilli.
Oh,
It's
God.
premium rum with almond milk.
Milli Vanilli?
This,
Remember the guy who
That
Yeah,
was,
they
Really?
lip sync their way through the Grammy Awards.
so
Right.
this is
40
So
years
listen.
ago.
I just heard an interview about them the
now
other day.
we're all
That's
dating
right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
we are.
So this is
I'm
Bon
gonna-
Bon.
I'm gonna mute again.
This is the other one. Ugh.
Bon Bon. And what flavor's that?
This is Coca Mocha Nut. Like Coca Mocha Nut.
I think that's
I
a
wonder why that
made
one's
up.
not around anymore.
And it's all with almond milk. I've
Now,
never
how old,
opened
how
it.
old, when was that in the market? Like, is it like 20 years ago?
No, this is you terrible.
No.
This has gotta be 8 years. I've never opened the box. Maybe 8 years old.
That may be why they didn't make it.
Yeah.
If you've had a
You might-
bottle
you
of
might not
flavored
wanna
something
open
for
them.
8 years and you
Hold
haven't
on,
been moved to open it.
They had a nice box and everything. I got a whole case. Yeah.
All right.
So
Well, why don't we, let's do this. Let's, Robert Carr is with us. He hasn't been with us a little bit, so we should get Robert a moment to chime in on any of these topics or others, and then we'll get to Jacques.
Well, just listening and learning as we go. I'm only 46 years in the business, so I'm relative
Only.
newcomer. So I got in it at 18, and I've sold beer, wine, spirits with just about RNDC for 26 years. So and been out on my own as a broker here in Dallas for the past 10, 11 years.
So you've seen some changes.
Absolutely. Yeah, distributors are very hard to come by these days, especially for startups and smaller brands, and very expensive to deal with. So that's half the battle, is finding the right distributor for your product.
Mhm.
So the big guys will tell you, I call on Southern Glaciers, I call on RNDC, they'll flat out tell you, hey, we'll get it delivered, we'll bill it, we'll take care of
Yep.
your breakage, but it's up to you to go out and sell it.
That's exactly right. That's why Vanessa is out there, right? Always hitting the pavement.
sure
So,
am. I sold a pallet in Maryland after I left you.
oh, good. All
Hold
right.
on, guys. I gotta say, Michael is really charming. He took me out to dinner for my birthday while we were in Maryland and got somebody else to pay for our dinner. He is so
It
good.
wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional. Fortunately, they were like, no, we'll pick it up. I'm like, what? But we had a good dinner. It was a good dinner. So Bob, what is your take like on, if you go, just harkening back to Mark's state of the sales situation and distribution? I mean, what are your takeaways from that? Obviously, you've just referred to the fact that it takes resources to get out there. You can't leave it to the distributor, but anything else?
Well, it not only for the distributor, for a retailer. I had a friend of mine who was retiring, wanted to open a little mom and pop shop, corner liquor store. He said, well, I've got $100,000 to invest right away. And I said, well, come back when you have 1.5 million. Because
Exactly.
you can't fill your beer box with $100,000, and beer here in Texas is COD. So any beer that goes into any beer account has to be paid by midnight on the day of delivery, whether it's electronically or by check to the vendor. Now, wine and spirits here have a 45-day terms. So that turns some suppliers off. So I've got a supplier out of New Jersey that he's trying to stick to a strict 30-day term. And that kind of backs people up a little bit as far as cash. So every state has their cross to bear. I basically am doing business in Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and New Mexico, and every state's different. So that's my marketing area, but I've got a group of other broker partners that do business throughout the U.S.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Jacques, are you there? I see your slide. He's on mute. There he is. Well.
Yeah, and I don't know that there.
So now let's, John Thomas, who's been listening in, who's a layperson. John, what have you heard today that you can add a consumer perspective to?
Well, I have a master class now in the acronyms of your business. I've been sitting here on Google looking up LDA and everything else, and it's just fascinating.
And
Exactly. So
OTR.
fascinating to jump in. The whole trends of the alcohol use is so interesting. Like when you look at different generations and how they're dealing with things. Even things that come to my mind is studies of the Gen Z in business. They no longer want to do happy hours at work. They want that distinct difference. So you've got kind of like the work crowd, you've got the personal crowd, and how they're dealing with things. I'm a huge podcast listener. And I recently listened to one of my favorite is the Chief Marketing Officer, the CMO podcast. He was a Chief Marketing Officer for Procter & Gamble, and he interviewed Isabel Sakai from Mark Anthony Brands, and she went through a whole discussion of the brands and what kind of resonated or kind of like was in line with Mark's conversation is. She was talking about the music festivals that people do, and it's a staggering amount of festivals that the younger generation is going to, and their predominant drink is the White Claw type things, and a lot of that is because she made an interesting comment. They don't want beer. First of all, it's not totally offered at a lot of the music festivals in the flavors they like, but you could drink a White Claw and just go through and drink many of them. Go through the entire festival and still be, kind of aware of what's going on. So just kind of an interesting view of what she had to that. So, but all
they
this
drink
is
a lot of energy drinks.
Yeah,
at those things.
Yeah. So, kind of what that came back in. What I love is I work just by introduction. I work for a facilities management company. Which might sound a little bit different from your industry, but my goal is to basically create an environment for the customer. So we handle from reception to cleaning.
What happened? John?
Rosa.
The internet services.
So I think
His
it just
employer,
froze up.
his employer pulled the plug.
Oh, God.
Exactly, right? That's so funny. And I didn't mute him.
Oh,
It
Oh, he's
wasn't
just
on me.
frozen.
I
He's frozen.
know.
Yeah.
He'll probably pull
All
off
right,
and
well,
come back
hopefully he'll
on.
I'm gonna have to get
Sure.
off in 4 minutes just so everybody knows. So if I disappear,
So, well, Carrie, before you go, what's new in your world?
not really anything except for the wine business declining,
Mm.
and for all of the reasons that Mark just told
Mhm.
us. And I read, I don't know if it was it yesterday or the day before? Now I don't know
Oh,
if it
John's
was
back.
Brown or Shanken, but we all know the reasons why. And it's
Right.
basically Gen Z people don't want to spend money and they're all into cannabis.
Yep.
There you go. I summed up your whole presentation.
Yep, that's it. They don't want to spend money in the
We didn't even need all those slides.
I've got a product I introduced several months ago that I'm having success on the college campuses, and it's Korean soju.
Uh-huh.
And I've got this particular label that's about 8 different flavors. It's 12% alcohol, 24 proof. So sells for about $5.50, and you get a
I
couple-
just got an inquiry yesterday from for bulk soju. Someone saying, can you get soju? So if you have a source, let me know.
Okay. And I also am having some success with pickle vodka.
Oh, sorry.
Selling like crazy.
Are you kidding me?
Did I say that out loud? I should have been muted.
One of my buddies in
I
Colorado
believe it. There's pickle everything now.
sent me 4 stores in Omaha, Nebraska that have 100+ displays on the floor. 100K
Well, they could use as a marketing tool. for-
Wow.
pickle vodka.
I guess if you think about it, it's like a dirty martini. If you
Well,
had,
yeah,
all
yeah,
of
I mean,
it.
I've seen a lot of recipes that they're making pickle everything's pickle margaritas. I mean, there is pickle everything,
And
but
it's low in calorie because if you think about it, if you want to lose weight, what do you eat? Cabbage or pickles? Because it's the vinegar content in it. So there's a spin on drinking alcohol, lose weight drinking alcohol.
All right, now
Sorry.
let's go back to John, who left us with telling about facilities management and how it's about creating the whole customer experience. And then he froze.
Afraid if I go back, it's gonna happen again. So no, I was just making a point that, in my business, we're trying to just make that experience for the customer from when they walk in the door to when we give them food to using restrooms and everything, just the cleanliness of it all. It just overlaps with what I'm hearing on this call, where you all just trying to create this experience, these drinks, and just to wow your customers. And it's fascinating to see the challenges you're having, the statistics, the metrics on how that's how you're just trying to make it work. And it's you could understand the complexity of your business just by being on one call. So I've heard stories from these calls from Stephanie for some time, and it's you have not disappointed me. So it's just fascinating.
Well, thank you for that perspective.
Yeah.
And I guess unless anyone has anything else, John doesn't seem to be connected. Mark, thank you and Bob very much for sharing that.
Oh.
And I'm I always love, I mean, when he, Bump sells it too, when he's there at the conference. He's great. And so
Well, I hope I sold it.
No,
too.
you did.
Please
You
tell
did.
him I did.
of course I will. Of course I will. So yeah, so you'll send that along to Stephanie, but we'll also,
will.
whatever we went through will be in the recording for
I
everyone.
will. I'll get that out to
Um,
you. And if anybody has questions, I think, Stephanie, you post the emails and that, just reach out to me. I'm happy to do follow-up questions or anything like that.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Definitely. No, we will get everyone's contact information out so you can follow up with each other. And Mark, very, very interesting information. I always have been the voyeur on this call, learned so much. Every time I think about it and I share it with John, the things I've learned, it's fascinating. So,
Well, thank you. And like I
yeah,
said,
no.
and I think John spent some time looking up the VMC as well. So thank you for that. And I apologize once again that I didn't put the deck together, so I missed it.
No,
But-
it's
Not
great.
to worry.
But great stuff, and I appreciate it.
Yes.
And I'll see everybody in a month.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think it's
our-
Friday, October 4th. Is that correct?
October 4th, my
Great.
birthday eve. So,
Oh,
right.
very nice. So we'll
Okay.
We'll raise the toast.
celebrate.
yeah,
we will
so I was gonna say I'll
celebrate.
bring something.
All right.
Yeah.
Listen, I just want to
Bring
throw
some
one thing out
birthday
there.
cake. Birthday
Sorry.
Yeah,
cake
go ahead.
flavored bourbon.
Just from a supply side, Michael, I'm sorry. If any of you guys need to know more about what's happening with the glass situation and these anti-dumping, and there's a lot of people that are just kind of pretending they know nothing because they don't have any concerns about their customers, please feel free to reach out to me because there are some coyote uglies out there that you need to avoid.
Definitely.
That's good.
Okay.
This is
Good
good.
insight. All right, thank you all.
Alright.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you October 4th. Always, as always, appreciate your participation because without it, what would we be doing? We'd be sitting around twiddling our thumbs.
I have to
All
go.
right, take
Exactly.
care,
Have a
everyone.
good
Take
weekend.
care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.